You're a few days away from closing on your dream home. Bags are packed, boxes are ready to go, movers are scheduled, and then you get a phone call from someone whose name sounds vaguely familiar. She says her name's Joanna and she's a real estate agent who showed you a house about 6 months ago. Well, she never called you back after that home. She never followed up with you. You never reached out to her again. But now she's telling you because you are closing on this home that you owe her commission as well. When you start asking questions, she reminds you about whenever you went to go meet at that home that you saw with her, just browsing on the websites, and you found this home. She called you up. She said, "I'd love to show you this home, but before we do see this home, you need to sign this piece of paper that is basically a glorified permission slip so we can get into the home. It's required and you have to do it if you want to see the home." So you signed it, didn't read it, and said, whatever, let's get in the home. It's a permission slip, like she said. Well, it turns out that piece of paper locked you into that agent for a whole year. And now you owe her tens of thousands of dollars. Believe it or not, this is a real life nightmare. If you're not careful, it could happen to you. So stay tuned because you're not going to want to miss what these sleazy tricks are that realtors are using to get paid, even if they don't help you buy a home. Last year, the National Association of Realtors settled a lawsuit on price fixing. In that settlement, now realtors have to have some form of agreement signed prior to showing a buyer a home. That agreement in my state typically is a buyer brokerage agreement, or a BBA for short. They're calling it a glorified permission slip. Well, this glorified permission slip is doing a lot of things that are legally binding. So it's not just a permission slip. It's something that could get you stuck in a lot of trouble if you don't know what to look for. Now, keep in mind, each state is written differently. Attorneys in each state have individually written their own. The National Association of Realtors has helped guide each state on what needs to be said, but it's written in our own language, in our own terms, from our attorneys. So with that in mind, let's talk about what you need to look for in those buyer brokerage agreements. So the first thing that you need to look for is how long is that contract good for? What is the term of that contract? Because you want to make sure that it is long enough for you to not just look at a home, but to also close on a home, typically. Because what the buyer brokerage agreement is saying is that that agent is supposed to represent you with their best ability, which is called fiduciary responsibilities. Fiduciary means that they look out for your best interests, even if it's not in the best interest of the agent, it's in the best interest of you, because that's what matters. That's what some agents have fallen away from, is the ability to look out for only the buyer, only their client, and not themselves. This has really pulled back the curtain. This whole lawsuit has pulled back the curtain on so many agents that are worried about how much they're going to get paid. So much so that it is no longer called commission. Now in my state, we refer to it as compensation. Well, anyway, back to my first point about how long is the term of this contract. Is it 1 month? Is it 1 day? Is it 90 days? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? I am seeing agents right up to a year on how long they're able to represent that buyer. If this is the first time that you've met this agent, how can you lock down someone for that long without knowing who they are? It's like going up to somebody and you asking to marry them when you only saw them. You haven't even gone on a date with them and they're asking to marry you. What kind of insane strategy is that? That's why I do things a little bit different. I earn your business. And by doing that, I typically do about a 30 to 45 day buyer brokerage agreement because I want to look out for your best interests, but I also want to keep it short enough to where you're not tied down to me. You basically have the upper hand of, Ben, if you don't do your job, I am going to find somebody else in 2 weeks. Well, whenever someone has that same document signed for 12 months, they don't have to do anything. Because if you buy a home with another agent and that is still during the term agreement of the agent that you signed that document with, yeah, you may have had the seller pay the agent fees for the agent that actually wrote the contract for you, but you're going to have to come out of pocket for that other agent. And it's not splitting fees. It's you pay your agent through the seller's contributions, and then the one that just swooped in when Joanna called you, you got to come out of pocket for that. Do you have tens of thousands of dollars potentially lying around? But like I said, I only do 30 to 45 days if this is a form that you want to sign. And I say if you want to sign, because there's other forms that we can use, and we're going to talk about those later. But if you are interested in talking to me one-on-one about buying, selling in Georgia or another state, I'm happy to find an agent that does business the same way that I do. I know tons of agents all over the country. So go to gahomehub.com. Go ahead and fill out the information there, and you can get in touch with me and we can have a conversation. I can send you over any documents that you want to know about and read over. So if you're looking to move to the Atlanta area, give me a call, shoot me a text, or go to gahomehub.com, and I'd love to help you out. So in my states, in Georgia's contract for the buyer brokerage agreement, another thing that you need to look for after you look at how long the term is, we have to state how much you're going to pay us at closing. You know, typically for me, it's somewhere between 2.5% and 3%. It varies depending on our situation, depending on what you're looking for, of how much I charge. Now, there is a box in there as well that you need to look out for in Georgia, and that's you need to make sure that they check the box that says that it's okay for us to ask the seller to pay for our commission or compensation. If they don't check that box, if they say that we're not allowed to ask, that means it's already automatically coming out of your pocket. That's not someone working for you, in my opinion. In my opinion, you want someone that's going to get as much as they can out of a seller to make sure that it is as easy as possible for you. You already have closing costs. You already have a down payment. If you have a house to sell, you've got to pay movers. You've got to pay all these different fees whenever you're buying a house that people don't always say. You got to pay for a home inspection. You've got to pay for the appraisal. And on top of that, you want to pay, an agent. Typically, if we can get that from the seller, that's what we want. Just like how we want to get some closing costs from the seller, we want to get my commission paid by the seller. I'll still represent you fully. That's part of me representing you fully. Hey, you know what? Let's get someone else to pay my bill for you. That is something to look out for, because in Georgia, if they write 3% on there and the seller only pays 2.5%, for example, then you have to come out of pocket for that other 0.5%. So like I said, stay tuned, and we're going to talk about a workaround on this whole form in general. But like I said, so many agents use this form. You need to know what's in it before you sign it. But before we do talk about the alternative form that you can sign in Georgia, let's talk about how you can potentially get out of an agreement that you don't want to be in. How do you get out of a BBA? Well, the first way that you need to go about it, if you do want to get out of it, even if it's with me, is you talk to the agent. And this is where a lot of agents are showing their true colors, because they'll say, if you do question it, like let's say you just saw the first part of my video, you saw the 2 points, and they say, well, no, it's okay. You can still sign it for a year, and if something happens, we'll terminate. Well, what happens if they don't? Because those are just words, and this is written down. So the first thing that you do is you go to the agent and say, hey, you know what? Things aren't working out. Maybe it's time that, I go find another agent. I haven't heard from you that much. You're not sending me homes, or you're not sending me the right homes. You feel kind of pushy, blah, 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 whatever it is. Well, the agent should release you at that point. And if they don't use to terminate your agreement, the next step is to talk to their broker. Agents are, in my state at least, are considered contract workers. We're contractors. is what we are in Georgia. And so our quote unquote boss, not really our boss, the one that makes sure that everyone is following the rules in Georgia of a real estate office, is their broker. So the next step is to go talk to their broker. Hey, this is what's going on, and I don't want to deal with this agent anymore, because a buyer brokerage agreement isn't technically with an agent. That specific agent that you signed it with, it's not with them technically, at least in my state. It's with the brokerage. So let's say that you're at ABC Brokerage, is where the BBA is signed with, and the agent refuses to terminate. You call the brokerage to terminate that agreement. Now, let's say that the broker says, nope, we're not terminating this agreement, for whatever reason, blah, 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 blah. They should terminate that agreement. But if they don't, that next step is, I would recommend, and I'm not an attorney, keep that in mind, I would recommend calling your state real estate commission. Let them know what's going on and tell them, why you want to fire your agent. They're not looking out for your best interests. They're not calling you back. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. Whatever they're doing, the reason why you want to fire them, let the Georgia Real Estate Commission or whatever state real estate commission, let them know that you want to terminate the agreement and no one is allowing you to terminate that agreement. Real Estate Commission should help you with that. And if they don't, I would talk to a real estate attorney at that point if you really do want to get out of it. And definitely, I don't work like that. If you want to terminate, let's terminate, because I want to be in this business for a long time. I've already been in 5 years. And I want to continue to be in this business. And someone that treats a person by locking them in, which some agents do, there's a reason why 90+% of agents are out of the business after 5 years. So I'm already in the top 10% just by still being in real estate after 5 years. Okay, so now you know what to avoid in a buyer brokerage agreement, what to look for, and especially what to avoid. Now, let's talk about an alternative. I've been telling you about this for leading up to it throughout the video. There's an alternative in Georgia, and it is called a showing agreement. In the showing agreement, it specifically states there is no agreement to compensation. And it states in there, the agent has to fill in the addresses of homes that you are showing, or in your case, you are seeing. In this case, it literally is a permission slip because there's no talk about compensation. There's no talk. It says that there is no representation with it. It's literally you getting into the home. And this is what I like to sign, at least on the first showing. Now, if you want to see more homes, then we're going to start talking about, hey, would you like to hire me? That kind of talk. But on the first one, there shouldn't be a commitment. It's just like in real life, whenever you're dating somebody or you ask someone out on a date, like I said before, the first thing you do is not ask someone, hey, do you want to get married? No, you say, hey, would you like to go get some coffee? In this case, hey, do you want to go see a house together? That's how it should be, at least in my mind, and how I do business. My job is to earn business. And I think that's how all real estate agents should work. Real estate agents should work to earn your business. So like I said at the beginning of the video, there are tons of agents like our fake Joanna out there who are trying to lock you in for a long-term contract. And they really don't want to do anything because they can just get money without having to do anything if you go find another agent. That's the scary thing about these forms. But like I said, make sure you know what you're signing. Make sure you know what to look for. And if you'd like to work with me, who does things, like I said, transparent out there, we talk about everything. There's a video now of me saying exactly how I do things. If you'd like to work with me, or you'd like to find someone that works just like me, go to gahomehub.com and we can figure out a plan that works just for you. We'll get a good workable plan going. Because remember, what some of these agents are doing couldn't just cost you tens of thousands of dollars. In reality, it could even cost you your dream home. Be sure to check out some of my other videos. I'm Ben Dings, and I'll see you next week.